So one last question.
Yes, sir.
What should we do locally about this whole
area
issue?
here?
Yes, in Lubbock.
I'm glad you asked that because for a region that's dependent on agriculture, is going to be is whether you like it or not, is dependent on unauthorized immigrant labor, on undocumented labor. So on one hand, you can say we want secure borders and we want to get rid of illegal immigrants. The other hand is they're the ones that are beating you, quite literally.
Yeah.
So when you look at the average labor force in farms, is 75% of immigrants. Of those, at least half are undocumented.
Wow.
So when we say about what does this affect regionally, if Trump is allowed to exercise what he really wants to do, you're going to see a cotton industry tank, because you're not going to get the workers. Even if you had native-born workers who are legal to work here, you're not going to have enough of them to do that work. And then we've already had instances where the United Farm Workers Union initiated in 2012 what they called Take Our Jobs. They had only 12 people apply for farm working jobs that were U.S. citizens, unemployed after the Great Recession and whatever. And then only 2 lasted a week.
So we need these people. Do you think we should just naturalize them?
Also, not only do we need these people, but and to be fair, because I hate to just pigeonhole these people as farm workers or doing jobs that Americans won't do. That's a bunch of BS. They also provide a skill. It's not easy to go out there and pick cotton, pick strawberries, pick apples, whatever. You may say, well, just go out there. No, it's a skill, because you're not. It's a skill in the fact that you have to pick or clip or cut as fast and as much as possible in order to satisfy the demand that's out there. It's just like any other assembly or factory work job. So you can't just be fresh off out of high school and be like, I'm gonna go and go pick for $20 an hour. Good, $20 an hour, but you don't have any clue, and they're gonna actually charge you by the bag, not by the hour. And you end up working there, and you only filled up 2 bags when the average worker who's been doing it for a good number of years is putting out 5, 10, 20 times more. So we have to understand that it's not just something that you can just pick off the street to come do this job. Yes, there's the environmental aspects, there's the heat, there's the outdoors. There's construction workers who do that. There's a lot. That's part of it, definitely. There's also a skill to it. So I think what you have to do is that maybe a way of legalizing their status. I don't necessarily think you have to naturalize if you don't want to go that far. But you should legalize their status, and that way, number one, it satisfies what everybody wants. They're documented. We know where they are. We know who they are. They're paying into the Social Security, even though they've probably been paying. They've more than likely been paying taxes. But now those workers can maybe get a refund like everybody else does, because they're not able to do that, because if they're using false papers, they can't go collect that Social Security check for John Smith when it's obviously Luis Gonzalez. Right? So there's a lot of things that we can look at. So I think that by accepting the reality of the situation can help us go a long way. And that's farmers putting aside their politics and recognizing that how the impact. There's already California farmers who are obviously are very worried because they voted for Trump because they believe in national security, and he's going to take away their workforce if his immigration plans come to fruition.
Yeah, do you think this will give the wrong message to the immigrants though? You can come here undocumented and after a while somebody will accept you. Do you think it's correct?
I think there's that, but I think that, again, this is what I've talked about in my book, and I think other scholars will argue, it's not a one-way street.
Yeah.
Migrants are coming because there's jobs waiting for them here. We got to get after those employers, because they too are not paying taxes. When they're paying underneath the table, they're not paying into our Social Security tax and other taxes that employers generally pay as well. So it benefits them to keep the status quo. So we're going to try and say, hey, but if we give all the 11 million or 12 million undocumented immigrants legal status, and that means people are going to be flooding our gates. That's not an issue. It didn't happen after IRCA when Ronald Reagan did it.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Okay.
So what we have to understand too is that what it does is that it's going to be, people are going to have stipulations. So if you have a record, obviously a violent record, you're not going to get any kind of legal status. So I think what we need to do is sort of understand that it's, first of all, we've done it before and nothing like that happened. And number two is that we, it allows for us to satisfy some of the concerns that both sides have, but mostly the right, in that we want them to pay taxes. Well, they have, but if you want to now document it now, because now Luis Gutierrez is paying taxes and not Alan Smith, then you can now have that. And they're not committing identity theft, which also helps us. There are those that have, legal status here. So there's that aspect. And then it allows Luis Gutierrez to actually exercise and be a part of the community and integrate himself into the American fabric, because he's not living in fear that he's going to be deported and be separated from his family. So now they can become community members. They can they can do what they can with little, unless they do something wrong, obviously, but they can be integral parts of our community, which we all need.